I'll continue talking about the precepts today. Today, I called this talk A Beautiful World. Oh, I've been really thinking a lot about how we create the world we would like to live in. And because there's so much turmoil in our world right now, especially thinking about what we can do actively to create the world we would like to inhabit, a world of kindness, compassion, a world in which we lift each other up rather than putting people down, a world where nobody takes more than we need, so there's enough for all. We share in the world's resources and food and money, in care for each other. A world in which relationships are not based on winners and losers, but on an interconnected quality, a dynamic quality, rather than this flat, inert idea of what we think people should give us or what we should get from people. A world in which we try our best, really, like wholeheartedly do our best with guidance from our teachers, from our Sangha, from our practice. A world in which we try our best, in which we inevitably make mistakes. We learn from those mistakes and we keep going. And what this means is a world in which relationships are dynamic and alive, not flat. The only thing blocking us from this beautiful world only is our minds, our concepts, our feelings of lack, our ideas about what we think is right and what's wrong, our list of grievances that we have, those old grudges from 30 years ago. We're still sort of hanging around, the terrible things that happened to us in our childhood. All of these exist in our mind, the leftovers. And what we have in this life is what we have. We can't go back and change the past, but we can change our relationship to it. Things happened, and that brought us here. This is what we have to work with. Some of us grew up wealthy. Some of us grew up poor. Some had parents who hit. Some had parents who were at work all the time. Some had parents who were loving and caring and had just enough. All of us had different situations. Nobody did that on purpose or did that to you on purpose. It's just the way things are. And that's what we have to work with. And when we understand that, knowing that we're all in this together, then of course we want the best for everybody. Of course we don't want, if we had a hard childhood, of course we don't want little kids to go through that. So we work hard to make the world better for their parents and for them. If we grew up poor, of course we want other kids to have enough to eat. So we work hard now. And in this way, we not only make the world better for everyone, but we also heal what we need to heal in ourselves. This is our beautiful dream that we can enact through our practice. Our beautiful dream that's possible in this life now by how we act now. The only thing blocking us is our ideas. I can't. I can't. The wall that I come up against in my practice for many years was really an I can't. I can't do it. I just can't. It's a lot. And that voice shifted over time. For some reason unfathomable to me, it took on the accent of a British boy. And it became, I can't do it. And then I had more space then. Not only did it make me laugh a little, but I also felt a little tenderness for that boy, whoever he is, whose voice came up like that. And I felt tenderness for whatever it was in myself that felt a feeling of lack. And it shifted to, I can do this with my teacher's help. I remember once during Rohat's Sesshin, which is a 7-day intensive practice period, and I was with my teacher in Japan. Rohat's, where he lives, is so cold. And the schedule during Rohat's is very tight. And I was doing a lot of jobs. I was the cook. I was the person doing the bells, the doan. I was doing a lot of things and caring for my teacher, of course. And he gave me the schedule in advance, just right before we started. Okay, I've made the schedule. So we sit down at the tea table, as you do, and okay, this is going to be the schedule. And in my mind, I was like, when am I going to have time to go to the bathroom? I was planning in advance, but I couldn't say that to him. That was a lot. So I was like, okay, it feels a little tight. I don't know if I can manage this time so tight between breakfast and the next period of zazen and have to clean up. I didn't say all of that, but I was thinking it. And I was thinking that secret thing I just told you too. And he said, oh, you can do it. It wasn't mean. It wasn't gentle. It wasn't judgmental. It wasn't a command. It was a complete and total belief in me. And he was right. I could do it. And by doing it, I found my limits and stretched them so much further than I ever thought possible. And I realized that the only limits were in my mind. It gave me a sense of my own possibility, a real understanding that there are no limits. Whatever I think I can't do is self-created. Through his, I won't call it faith, I won't call it trust. I'll just say that his understanding of reality. You can do it. I'll say that to all of you. You can do it. You can do it. You can do it. It'll be okay. The precepts give us a structure for our practice. And we build onto this structure. They're essential. I've heard some teachers say, or some ways of presenting the precepts, that somehow we'll sit zazen, and through sitting in zazen, the precepts will sort of just happen. Like, of course we won't cause harm because we're sitting zazen and we've understood. And it doesn't happen that way. Our zazen is essential for keeping the precepts, and the precepts are essential for our practice. Our ancestor Nagarjuna said that the ethics, this is what we call the precepts, ethics are the foundation of all the qualities we develop in our spiritual practice. The foundation of all the qualities we develop. Ethics. What are ethics? Quite simply, how we are with each other, how we act as the Catholic priest, theologian, David Steindl-Rast said, ethics are how we behave when we decide we belong to each other. I love this so much. How we behave when we decide, because there's action there. Ethics are not something somebody else does to us. It's not a rule imposed from outside in. You know, like the teacher telling you not to chew gum in the classroom or to be noisy during lecture. Ethics are how we act when we decide that we belong to each other. And that decision is yours. Make your own decision. I'm not here to be the boss of you. I'm not here to, you know, to replace your mother or your elementary school teacher. I'm here as your guide based on my experience, based on what I've learned from my teachers, based on what I've learned through my practice. I'm here to pass that on. But I'm not here to enforce a set of rules that means nothing. You decide that. How do you want to behave? Have you made the conscious decision that you belong in this family of the world, that we belong to each other? Have you made the conscious decision that the people in the world with you also belong? Because we have to belong to each other. You know, I was looking at this in terms of peacemaking this week, how hard it is in places of conflict or war to acknowledge belonging, that we belong, that all of the players in the conflict belong in some way. Maybe not the way they say they belong or the most, you know, the most aggressive of us try to enforce. But when we decide from the inside out that we belong to each other, we naturally want to lift others up and not put them down. We naturally don't take more than we need. So the precepts give us a structure for this beautiful dream. The precepts give us a structure for our best selves to flourish together. The precepts give us a structure for depth of relationship, not just some surface plastic relationships based on getting or taking from others, but really digging in. The precepts are compost for that. Whatever we think from our thinking mind about right and wrong gives way to the true wisdom of belonging, the true wisdom of no me separate from you. And the precepts are the structure for this. So we build from this structure. A few weeks ago, I spoke about stillness. And again, I'm going to stress this. There's so much going on in the world. There's so much fear and anxiety. It is essential for all of us to cultivate a deep stillness in ourselves. At our deepest core, a stillness. And when we do, the stillness permeates the world around us. People feel that, respond to it. Animals notice, children notice, our colleagues at work notice, and we ourselves notice. So I spoke about this deep stillness. This stillness is cultivated through Zazen practice. And this is an essential element of keeping the precepts as well. We have the structure of the actual precepts, not to kill, not to take what is not given, not to misuse sexuality, not to lie, not to misuse intoxicants, not speaking about the faults of others, not putting ourselves up and others down, not being stingy, but being generous, not giving way to anger or holding on to anger, and honoring the three treasures, Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. These are our structure. The way we learn to keep them is through our Zazen practice, through stillness, through deep stillness, through letting go of the me, the idea that I'm separate from you. The great teacher Atisha says in the Bodhisattva Treasure Garland, when in the midst of many, let me keep a check on my speech. When remaining alone, let me keep a check on my mind. So speech is the outward manifestation. Your mind is the inward manifestation. And how many of our minds have a lot of speech going on? Chatter, chatter, chatter. What does that speech look like? We really pay attention. When we really pay attention, it can be painful. I remember once early in my practice, I was really trying. I was always trying. I was really into Zazen and I was trying my best. And I would use things to motivate myself, and talk to myself like, I can do it, but it wasn't like that. I found that my speech to myself was quite critical. And so much of a habit that I didn't even notice it for a while. And once I noticed how critical that speech was, I was shocked, but still hard to back off from that narrative. What is your narrative? To yourself, to others, that ongoing. That matters as well. When we quiet our mind, then we're able to be more present to the actual things going on. When we do practice based on external activities, if we think of the precepts as doing stuff or not doing stuff, when we do our practice based on that, then our practice won't develop, it won't grow, it won't be beneficial when the mind is distracted like this. We have to learn to quiet our mind at the same time that we hold the structure of the precepts. And there's never a limit. If you think, oh, I got this, then I would encourage you to back off from that. The precepts are an ongoing relationship. We try, we mess up, we make repair, we try again. This is our human condition. And we keep going. And as we do this, the depth of our relationships with ourselves, with our Sangha, with others deepens. And we find that we're larger and better than we thought. That the limits we thought existed were self-imposed. Without Zazen, the precepts become these outside-in rules. That, again, they separate us into you and me, Oh, I better not steal from you, rather than seeing things as having enough for all. When we see everyone as belonging and everything belonging, then stealing becomes a silly concept. Not taking what's not given is about respect, honor, kindness, even when no one's around. When we see the precepts as imposed from the outside in, then we get stuck in this cycle of failure. Because remember, I said we will fail. We can flip failure to being failure. We can flip mistakes into being a positive quality. When we see it as a failure, then that again splits success, failure. And when we get into the split, then what's at the center of this? Well, here's our ego coming up again. Me at the center. I failed. Oh no. And then we feel what? A sense of shame, which is very self focused. I'm terrible. Poor me. I'll never get this. Or a sense of blame, which is pushing away and creating other, which is another lie. You're terrible. You did this terrible thing. Split. The precepts should work to bring us together, and our Zazen practice informs this by giving us a way of learning to be still, to drop our thinking mind, to let go of the idea that I am separate from you, and see the truth shining freely. There's enough for all. Everyone matters. We're all in this together. We see the truth. When I put myself up, I think inevitably I put others down. We think about these things and try them. The precepts become alive for us. I was speaking with someone this week who was talking about how the precepts were working in his life right now, as different from last year, the year before, the year before. And in hearing him speak, he was talking about the precept of not speaking about the faults of others. His reflection inspired me. Like, oh, how am I doing on this? Oh, I really appreciate your perspective. Seeing things in your own way, but it gives it a little freshness for me. It made me really reevaluate how I'm doing with that precept. So this is one of my students. We can always, always, always continue to learn and deepen. There is no limit. When we create this split, again, based on our ideas, then we prevent our own beautiful dream from manifesting. We get in our own way, in other words. When we get ourselves out of the way, we see that this beautiful world is already here. The dream is our lived reality. This is our challenge, getting ourselves out of the way and letting the beauty of the world naturally shine, the shimmering, magical quality of everyday life naturally, luminously permeate everything. In this beautiful, what is your beautiful world like? In this beautiful world, the idea of perfection is no longer important. The idea of perfection is something that we make up. based on our concept. And then rather than the idea of perfection, we have the perfection of meeting each moment, the perfection of vulnerability, the perfection of being human, of making mistakes. Because then when we see it in this way, in this beautiful world, mistakes are not something to feel bad about, but something to get excited about because we have the chance for learning and growth. Yeah, we can feel nervous too. That's okay. Oh, I don't know what I'm going to do here. I had a big disagreement with my friend, but I am in this. We are in this. We're going to figure it out. It gives us a resolve and a way of continuing. This is our beautiful dream. It transforms our whole life, giving us relationships with meaning and depth and sparkle, helping us to see not only our best selves, but the best selves of others around us, to see the best qualities of all of our friends, our Sangha, to see people shine, to celebrate in our successes, to cry with our friends, our Sangha, when they cry. This is a dynamic, moving, sparkling, shimmering world, not a flat idea. We move from black and white into full color. And just when we think we figured it all out, they discover a new color. What does that even look like? Did you see that in the news? They discovered a new color. How? Don't you want to see it? Are you afraid to see that new color? Or just curious? Treat your practice in this way. Be curious, interested, intrepid, willing to experience something you never thought possible. And then this life that you've dreamed of will be your life that you live in. This life that we all dream of is our reality. Completely possible, completely belonging with the structure of the precepts, the stillness of deep zazen coming together. Well, thank you, everyone.